careful. There's a
You
little
look familiar. All right, I think we're all here. Welcome and thanks for coming. My name is Dr. DJ Whiting, and I was the dentist in Northfield for almost 50 years. It's a long time. It's a lot of teeth. These eyes have seen murder. I witnessed murder right here in our small town, and I'm going to tell you all about it. It's really a fascinating story. You see, my office was in the Scriber building, the top floor of the Scriber building. So in 1876, when the bank was robbed, I was actually working with someone, and I watched it, a bird's eye view, and I'll get to that. A little bit about myself first. I was born in 1844 in Ohio. When I was in my teens, when I was 19, I fought in the Civil War. I was actually at the Battle of Gettysburg. Later on after that, I went to dental school, or dentistry school in Vermont. And after graduating, I settled in Northfield. And a couple of years later, I met my wife. I married Cordelia here in 1871. We had 5 kids together. And we really lived most of our lives right here in Northfield. We liked the community, the fabric based on education and religion and industry. It fit us real well. So, 1918, Cordelia passed away. She dropped dead suddenly. It was a shock to us all. And yeah, it was a hard year after that. I was still doing dental work in 1919 when I decided to call it quits. I was 75 years old and still working. But get this, just 3 days after retiring, I hung up the coat. 3 days later, my daughter held a retirement party for me in Mankato. And towards the end of the evening, I didn't feel well, and I passed out and never woke up again. I died of heart failure 3 days after quitting working. 50 years in Northfield. Well, that's my life in a nutshell, and enough about me. I would like to share what I saw during the bank raid robbery by the James Younger gang. It was a real nice September day. I was working. I had the windows open in my office. The sun was shining in. I was with a patient, Addie Murray, who married Henry Wheeler. She's right there. She's going to talk to you next. So she was sitting in my office, and we heard some gunshots. And we both looked at each other in surprise. Then I remembered there was this traveling Wild West, some sort of circus setting up. They were going to perform that weekend. So I surmised it must have been some kind of promotion for that event. But when the shots continued, I went out onto this little perch, a little balcony on the second floor, looked down right at the bank and realized that our bank was under attack. I didn't have a gun. I would have fired, I would have shot, but I was not a hunter and I didn't keep any firearms in my office. Had I had one, I certainly would have fought back. Well, there was one man in particular who seemed to be in command while I was watching this, as he was shouting orders to these men on horseback as they rode up and down the streets. I later came to know that man as Cole Younger. And these brigands were firing their guns and cursing at our unarmed citizens at the point. In the midst of this violence, I saw a man running down the sidewalk. They were shooting at him and ordering him to get back inside, yelling at curses, and it was obvious they were shooting with intention to kill. Well, shortly after this, one of the men discovered me, saw me, and with curses ordered me to get inside and accompanied this order with a gunshot. Struck the wall right behind me. So I ducked in and decided to watch the action from a nearby window just right by. When I got to the window, I noticed Cole had been joined by his brothers Bob and Jim, and they were now attacking A.R. Manning, who was firing at the corner of the building. They were obviously firing with intention to kill him. See, when Cole Younger had a parole hearing to get out of prison, he was in Stillwater, he said, we were not intending to kill any citizens that day. We were using our guns as a scare tactic. And I ordered my men not to kill anybody. But despite the testimony, I never heard him contradict the order to shoot. From my vantage point, I certainly would have heard him. Well, during this action, I heard Cole yell to his brothers to charge up on him, A.R. Manning here at the corner of the building. And then I heard him yell to Bob to shoot through the stairs, the stairwell I was on, and he shot through a number of times. And then seeing me, I heard Cole yell, shoot that man up in the window. And I ducked back down and dared not look again until these would-be robbers beat a hasty retreat to the south with little to show but blood for their effort. But while this was a tragic day for our community, it did show the true mettle of our otherwise peace-loving citizens. The loss of Haywood was a devastating blow to us all. To think this man had survived some of the bloodiest battles of the Civil War only to die and lose his life at the hands of that cowardly Frank James in the bank. Also sad was the death of the Swede, Nicholas Gustafson, who died a few days later. After the robbery was over, I walked down those stairs and went out into the dirt streets, and I picked up one of the revolvers that had been left by one of the robbers. The 6 of them had left on 5 horses. I held on to that. I held on to that for a couple of years, and I eventually turned it over to the First National Bank for their collection. And I hear it's still there today in downtown Northfield on Division. You can see that gun that I held in the display case. Folks, I took the memories of that day all the way to this grave. And that's my story, and I want to thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Again, move with care. Many of these stones are trippers.
Okay, nice job.
Thank you. Good to see you guys.